Welcome to Tyrompers No Limit Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thanks so much for tuning in to Tyrompers No Limit Podcast. Guys, this is episode number 80, and I am fired up. We're doing this one in studio, which is AKA my bedroom. We got the man, the myth, the legend over here. We got Mr. John, AKA former King David. He's helping you master your dopamine, helping men all over the country quit porn. This guy's an absolute champ. I've spent the last week with him. Little known fact, also all kids love him because my sons are addicted to this guy. We just got back from a splash pad playing together. I love this guy from the bottom of my heart. He's a great man. I think he's going to share some great wisdom with you guys today. Welcome to the pod, brother. How you doing,
thank you so much for having me, man. This is great. First time in person. We've been looking forward to it.
Man, well, I appreciate it. Well, dude, anybody, I assume we were just commenting. We have hundreds of people that follow me and follow you. We have a big common shared audience. We talk about a lot of the same stuff, right? But for anybody who might not know you, man, give them a little bit about you, who you are, what you're about.
Yeah, so the short answer, the short rundown who I am is I help dudes quit porn in 31 days. I've been doing this since April of 2021. I don't know the grand total of people that I've helped, but it's close to 100.
Awesome,
I've worked with one-on-one, so I was telling one guy today, I go, I know quitting porn better than most people do. I've had a lot of hands-on experience with a lot of my guys. And it's something that I'm very blessed to be able to do. It's provided me the lifestyle. I grew up in Illinois, second half of my young adulthood life, and here I'm in Vegas in person. Drove down for the men's retreat, which for those of you who are interested in these revival retreats that these guys do, that Ty and Germ do, I cannot recommend them enough. That's the reason I'm here, and it has led to a lot of breakthroughs, a lot of good stuff. So
that's awesome, man. Well, dude, I appreciate you, everything you bring to the table on these retreats too. I know that, the one thing that I want to hit on is, dude, you're 23 years old. Believe it or not, hey, all you single ladies out there, by the way, I've actually checked the demographics of my YouTube. It's like 4% women, which are my wife and my mom probably. But any of you single young Christian ladies out there, this man is single and, super successful and a business owner. But I know it wasn't always that way, man. So can you kind of walk us through how you came upon this journey? Maybe talk about getting canceled, what that's like, and how you've grown through that, man.
Yeah, first thing to say about getting canceled, I don't recommend it. Do not recommend it unless you want the Lord to expedite your process of maturation and stepping into the role that He has for you. Then, hey, maybe you do need to lose your job and get kicked out of a few churches. But my journey in starting my business started when I saw a Jose Rosado tweet that said, "If you have solved the problem in your life that other people need help solving, you can write an ebook talking about how you solved that problem, and you can sell it for $20 a pop. And if you sell 5 copies a day, that's $100 a day." And at the time, I would have just got a 50-cent raise, and I was making $10 an hour working at a sporting goods store selling used and new sports equipment. And most often my shifts were 5 hours long. So I was making $50, and that was not with, taxes go to the equation. It was like $43.
Well, plus in Illinois, man. Yeah. Taxes be high, man. We left Illinois for that.
That was good. And hearing that I could make $100 online just from tweeting and selling an ebook was really, really like, whoa.
So how old were you when you first saw
I think when I first saw that, I would have been, I think when I first saw it, I was either 19, almost 20, or 20, or just like brand new 20.
Okay.
Brand new 20.
So that was the start of the social media Twitter journey. So you start tweeting, you start talking about this stuff, but let's go even a little before that if I can.
Yeah.
At that point, had you solved, hey man, I had kind of gone through the party and the porn type stuff, and you were on the other side of that now?
So when I got on, the reason I originally got on Twitter was in large part because my friend Andrew Lochner, he lives up in New York. I was one of the groomsmen at his wedding. We met on Instagram, writing for a blog way back. I wrote my first blog post that I ever made, like in the manosphere, Artist and Self-Improvement, was in 2015.
Wow, man,
when I was
wild. Holy cow.
The blog post is unfortunately no longer on the website because I took it down from the canceling, because even that site was getting some heat, and he was like, "Hey man, I gotta take these down." I'm like, yeah, that's fine. So if they're still archived, I could probably text him and be like, "Hey dude, get these up," so I can show people, point them toward them. But at that point in time, 15, I was still watching porn. 19, so it was a hot summer's afternoon in like June 2019 when we just got back from the pool. and I was getting ready to do my thing, pull up the hub and do what you do. And I remember sitting on the toilet and like having this thought go through my head, like while I was like mid through, and thinking to myself, like, I'm not going to feel any better. Like, I will literally not feel any different than I feel right now when this is all said and done. And for the first time ever, I set my phone on the bathroom sink, and I got in the shower, and I didn't finish. I didn't go through with it. The first time I stopped, and it was in that moment that I realized, I was like, oh my goodness, I said no to it that one time. And this was at a period where I just essentially was like, screw it. If I watch this, I watch this. I do not care. I mean, it was an on and off again thing where, I mean, I got to the point where I no longer felt guilty.
Yeah.
Like
even as like a Christian guy,
Yeah,
just
I
like,
just
well,
didn't
it's
care.
normalized,
I
right? And
didn't
they don't
care.
talk about it a lot in the church. And I mean, I even heard as a married guy, well, every married guy does it, right? If it's been a couple weeks, that's just what you do. You know,
Right.
that's what I was even
Right.
told by some church guys I might have respected back in the day about that,
Wow.
right? So I think it's a pretty normal thing. So you have this big epiphany then, hey, I don't feel better after. And I'm April, so I'm a little over 3 years now with zero
Yeah.
images, zero things. And dude, I kind of came to that conclusion too. I always feel like crap after. And I
Yeah.
feel like, when Adam and Eve sinned, what'd they do first? They hid. And I always noticed that my relationship with God would struggle because I wouldn't listen to the praise music the next couple of days. I felt ashamed, and I always felt worse.
Yeah.
And so for you to have that at 19, man, it took me to like 36 to have that, right?
Yeah,
So
glad I had that moment. Glad I experienced that. And like I said, I mean, it was at this. I remember there was one time I was probably 17, and I thought, like, Paul had his thorn in his side. This can be mine, and it was a way to like justify it. Like, I don't want to get rid of it. I liked what I was doing, but I knew it was an issue. 2019, I was like, okay, it's time to get rid of this. And then come January 9th, 2020, that was the last time I pursued it, last time I relapsed to it, and
wow,
been
man,
clean since.
that's amazing, man. And so you get over that hump, and then you think, now I have the tools that I can help other guys. Because look, I mean, it's I read a stat the other day, man, where pornography goes up in Vegas when there's Christian conferences that come into town.
Oh, I 100% believe it.
And it's broke my heart, man, and I think
Yeah.
it's something the church doesn't talk about a lot. You kind of get ostracized. So maybe that leads into some of your canceling. You start to grow social media.
Yeah.
You start to talk about this
Yeah,
stuff. Can
well,
you
and
take us from there?
Yeah, so I don't remember the exact post because it was a series of posts. I think that the liberals at my church, I mean, I'll speak very candidly, left leaning, they weren't nearly as biblically serious as I was, and they didn't like me. And there's some context. There's about 2 years worth of context that really led up to the canceling, and it's quite really not super important. But the gist of it is they thought that I was instigating some kind of like misogyny in the church and teaching it to these young adult kids, or these like 7th graders that I was leading.
What was the message? Just
I don't remember. It had something to do with masculine and feminine polarity dynamics, and it was so funny, dude, is I don't remember the exact tweet, but I remember the morning I woke up, and I smoked weed the night prior, so my brain was still a little fried, but I was like, controversial tweets do good. And I thought to myself, I want to write a tweet that triggers people.
that is true. If you're trying to grow social media, you can be very polarizing, and they'll take off, right? But then you have to deal with like a lot of that stuff, right?
And then you get canceled. So in retrospect, I did exactly what I set out to do. But I mean, getting canceled at 20 years old is not the most fun thing, because it's one of those things in retrospect that I realized, like, it led to trust issues, a difficult time forming relationships, because I had friends that stopped talking to me.
So these are like friends in the church or at job, or what does canceled mean, I guess? What happened that time?
So I remember the day that it was actually my brother and we got jointly canceled. But I remember the day that like these social media posts came out that they were defaming him. Because they were telling a story about him that was fabricated. And then they painted me as the guy behind the curtain pulling the strings. That was my role in the whole, in the story they told about us. And I remember I was at work while this was going on, and people were like, yo, have you seen these posts? This is going on. blah, blah, blah. And I'm like stressing out. And I told my coworker, I gotta go. I gotta go.
Yeah.
And that was the last time I was ever in there. Last time I ever saw him. So my coworkers, I don't talk to because they don't talk to me.
So you got fired after
I got
that?
fired, yeah.
For a tweet.
For a tweet. So what ended up happening?
What was the tweet, man? Just something about
it was something about how, and I mean, in retrospect, it wasn't like the greatest tweet, but it was something about how men and women, how masculine and feminine dynamics will play out regardless. And one of the ways that was shown would be like through them having sex or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was. In retrospect, probably wasn't my brightest tweet, but the Lord used it. He sure used it. And I did use some bad words in there, so that didn't help my case too much.
Part of that's probably being 22, right?
Yeah.
And you're like wanting to like, well, you get feedback from Twitter, and early on I dealt with this too. Okay, if I say these kinds of fringe things, they take off.
Well, and of course,
and
so when
you get feedback like that.
Yeah, and when I first was on Twitter, my corner was much more red pill Twitter. So it was a lot, and this is like,
for anybody who doesn't know red pill, describe that.
Yeah. So red pill, of course, red pill is to pursue truth, but red pill in this context is like red pill relationships. So women are cruel, women don't have the ability to think long term, or they're not logical, they're cruel and emotional. So it's all like the dudes who are hurt from breakups and divorce, and all the guys who have who've not been divorced or have not experienced breakup but are so black-pilled that they're then perpetuating this anti-woman message. And I'll say this too,
these are the guys that attack me online every time I say that I love my wife and we have a great partnership. She makes me better.
So yeah, my early Twitter influence was not the greatest. It was not conducive to the message that I'm pushing now. So what ended up happening was I saw the tweet from Jose Rosado talking about the ebook. I wrote the ebook. I sold a few copies of the ebook before I got canceled. So I made my first $12 online while I was sleeping. I woke up to a Gumroad notification that said, you made your first sale. And brother, when I say that changed my life, I woke up and made money, for crying out loud. That was impossible.
You're not taught that growing up, right?
No, you can make money while
rich circles are. Really wealthy circles are, but we're not taught that. In Central Illinois, you and I weren't taught that. Neither one of us, right?
No, you're not. And so I made that. I sold a few copies of the ebook. I was canceled. And at that point, I was like, if I was canceled at 20 years old, it's going to happen again. That was my thought process. And I was fortunate enough to I was living at home. I didn't have to worry about anything. It was also around the time of the pandemic that was really starting to kick in, so there was a duality there. So I was canceled, and then the pandemic went on, so I didn't have the opportunity to go out and meet new people. Winter 2020 was spent with me building my business, which consisted of a lot of time on Twitter, smoking weed in the evenings, watching PewDiePie.
Watching what?
PewDiePie.
I don't know what that is.
He does react videos to
okay, gotcha. Okay.
He's actually kind of based. I like PewDiePie videos. But I spent that winter in my bedroom, and if I was in my bedroom, I would leave the house to go to the corner store to get nicotine because they wouldn't card me, or I'd go to my friend's house and we'd smoke weed.
So do you think you kind of swapped one addiction for another then?
So yeah, that's
I've done that many times in my life.
In one sense, yes. In one sense, yes, because the last time I watched porn, I was high. And I remember in the moment, the whole sensation was amplified, because that's what weed does. It takes what you're getting and it just blows it up. But afterwards, the post-nut clarity hit, and I was like, I can't do that again, because it happened a handful of times where I would smoke weed, I would watch porn, I would have nicotine, and I'd binge eat, and I would wake up the next morning.
So bad, man.
I would wake up the next morning, and it wouldn't be until 5 p.m. that I would finally start to feel like I just woke up. My brain would be completely fried.
Yeah.
Completely fried. And that happened a handful of times. Not a ton of times, but that one time in January was enough for me to be like, all right, porn for sure has to go. Because I started smoking weed thinking, and it's so common to do this, but I try to justify it medicinally.
Yeah.
It's helping with my OCD symptoms.
Oh, dude, yeah.
And at the beginning it did.
Yeah.
And I actually credit me smoking weed back in the early days to me being more open to like holistic health and alternative medicine, because I was like, yo, this is helping.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where I need this to fall asleep, which is BS, guys. You do not need weed to fall asleep.
You don't sleep better on it either.
It wrecks your REM sleep.
Yeah.
It'll cause hormonal imbalances. It'll wreck your testosterone, which is not good. Do not recommend that, which it did for me for a while. So yeah, I went from there was an overlap period where I first saw porn when I was 9. I quit right before I turned 20. So 10 years. And then nicotine I started using in like 2018, beginning of 2018, middle of 2018. And I stopped in February 2022.
Okay.
Full disclosure, I do still smoke cigars, and yes, cigars have nicotine in them, but totally different experience. Everybody always like, where do you still smoke cigars? I've had some people that'll be like, tobacco is worse for you than porn. I'm like, no, let me stop you right there. It's not. So yeah, I went from porn to dual using porn with nicotine, to quitting porn, keeping nicotine, smoking weed, being addicted to weed and nicotine, then dropping weed and then dropping nicotine. And now I'm not an addict. I'm sober. I don't have. Once I was done with nicotine, I was like, I get addicted to things quite a bit. And at that point I was like, I'm just going to renounce an addict identity.
Yeah.
I do not have an addictive personality. Addictive personality is a cope. It's just a prison you put yourself in. And I have the ability to dedicate myself to my trade and my craft, and I go all in. And when I go all in, it brings results. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in Las Vegas right now.
And that's something that my first coach, Zach Hummel, helped me too, because I used to say things like, well, I'm just, dude, I have an addictive personality. I'm a slave to this. I can't stop this. And he'd say, well, why do you limit yourself? Just get addicted to the right things, Yeah. And so now I reframe it as a very powerful thing, which sounds like you have, because there's not many 23-year-olds that have businesses making, what you're making, and being able to travel and live the life you want and to help people and be passionate. And I don't know any 23-year-olds besides you that are like, man, I'm going to do this the rest of my life. I feel called. I want to build this. I know this is in me. So talk about that clarity now that you've kind of given that stuff up. And also, the last note I'll say is, dude, I stopped taking edibles occasionally about a few months ago. I think I had the same epiphany as you, I'd rather face a problem head on, like, hey man, if I feel like I need an edible to fall asleep or to de-stress, I'd rather do breath work. I'd rather listen to a sermon. I'd rather go for a walk. There's healthier ways to go about it than pop an edible, and then you wake up the next day, those problems aren't gone. Now they're magnified. And I also think porn does that. It's like 100 times magnifier. You wake up and you're more anxious, more stressed, right? So I think that's something people need to realize, is that the alcohol, porn, food, whatever those things are you escape to that aren't healthy, they just end up magnifying those problems if you don't face them, right?
Well, yeah, and the tragedy is modern man has not been equipped with tools to deal with their emotions. We don't know how to deal with stress. We don't know how to deal with anxiety. We don't know how to get out of the rut of depression. We don't know how to deal with addiction. It's all this abstract, I will not feel this way anymore. And you can do that for like a day or two. And then something hits the fan and you just get kicked in the teeth. And you're like, man, this sucks. But you don't even say that. And you relapse. You go to whatever your substance is, whether it's drugs, whether it's weed, whether it's porn, whether it's alcohol, whether it's nicotine. You turn to this thing, and it can be eating, it can be video games, it can be social media. Where it's anything that is draining you of your time and your energy, and that deep down inside that's preventing you from reaching that next level.
I've even talked to pastors and that warned me before, because I kind of feel like I have like a ministry, is how I look at my Twitter, my online social media. I feel it's a ministry. I've had many pastors warn me and say the church for them became that. They got this high from even pouring into others, and they ignored their family, which was right in front of them. I think it can be anything, sometimes even good things,
Oh yeah, well, it can be on the gym.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right, man. So how do you then recognize that? And when people realize I have a problem and maybe they come to you, what are some next steps, and how do you help people overcome this?
Yeah. So
I know some of your clients that have come. I know many of them that are like, dude, it's amazing.
Yeah,
like in 6 weeks, I can.
Yeah. One of my clients at Joshua QPS, I worked with him in March of last year,
Mm.
and 31 days was done with. He quit and he stayed involved in like the communities that I was building on the back end. My client only group chat, the QPS master race. lots of good times in there. And Josh came on the retreat you hosted last September. And even for me, that was one of those moments where, like, you know, at that time I was 22, he was 21, and he's talking to you and the other guys twice his age, twice my age, and he's just spitting.
Oh,
and he's talking about stuff that I taught him. And it was in that moment that I was like, this is amazing how much it's like really infiltrating, or not, well, like just getting in deep with people. But on practical first steps is one of them is your mindset and outlook on relapse has to change. A relapse is not the end of the road. Think of it like this. You are on a road trip and your destination is 365 miles away. And you're driving and everything is going smoothly. The weather's great. It's a perfect sunny day for driving. The temperature in your cabin is just right. No problems. You got snacks and you're 30 miles out and you pop a tire. And lucky for you, there's a spare tire. So you just take off the bad tire, put on the spare tire, and you keep going. Does that pop tire change the fact that you traveled the first 335 miles?
Yeah, no way.
No, it's so you just finished out. So if you relapse, same thing applies. You do not detract the progress that you made. And that's one of the big things I tell my guys is like, look, you don't need to use street trackers because every time you relapse, you go, oh, I'm back at 0. And if you're back at 0, you have clearance to binge because you might as well. So now it's live and learn, forgive and forget. If it happens, it happens. Don't even worry about it. Figure out what caused it and adjust course and move on. Don't treat it like a big deal, because at the end of the day, your relapse is only as bad as you make it out to be. And the worst thing about any relapse, and specifically about porn, is the shame. And one reason why porn is so bad is because no matter what you're pursuing or who you perceive yourself to be or how your family and friends perceive yourself to be, if you know that you have a porn addiction, you will never step into the calling that you're supposed to, because it's, what if they find out? What if they knew who I really am? What if they know what I struggle with? And on the one hand, so many guys watch porn that no one's really going to care, which is almost kind of cynical to say, but it's the truth. If they find out, no one really cares. But you can't let that shame dictate your actions, and you have to break away from that in your recovery process. So the first thing is change your outlook on relapses, and then also change your outlook on urges and cravings. So what I tell people is your urges and cravings are signals that your brain and body are sending you to tell you something is wrong. We are not balanced. We're outside of our natural homeostasis. And your subconscious mind, which houses your programming and has determined what you're going to do in your behaviors already, has predetermined, if we feel this signal, we watch porn to get rid of this signal. And you have to start listening to that. Like, instead of like, I have an urge to watch porn, it's, I have an urge to release emotional tension. What is causing this tension? So that's where you actually have to start facing your emotions. And the honest truth is, if you are not in a position to face those emotions and work through those emotions, you're going to continue relapsing. And for a lot of guys, that's not easy to even just realize, like, I have to stop running. I have to start facing these things. And that is a process. That is a journey. But one thing that makes that so much easier is if you have a why. You have a strong, compelling why. And whenever I have guys that want to work with me, the biggest thing that I'm screening for is, why do you want to do this? Why are you going to invest in an intensive program with me for the next 31 days? Because if someone's like, oh, you know, I just want to get rid of my ED so I can sleep around more. Please, you're not taking this seriously, go away. But I had a guy just today that's like, this turned into me going to erotic massage parlors, and I'm about to destroy my relationship with my significant other, who I want to take to that next level.
man, and you see it snowball like that because
Yeah.
in fact, man, every single, like when I quit about a little over 3 years ago, I wrote down why, and I actually put it on my phone. Actually, a joke about it, I put my preacher's picture, his face, shout out to Eddie Lowen, on my private browsing screen. So if I ever went to my private browsing, it would be his face, and that was enough to like kind of say. But my big why was like, dude, I can't really be a great dad if I'm gonna look at other dad's daughters in that way.
Right.
And it hit a chord with me one day, several years ago. Like, man, like it's a really shameful thing, man, to like view other children of God in my eyes as just objects. And it's just that. And I thank God every day now that it's sort of reprogrammed my brain to see women in a different light, man. And to see like just they're more than that, and it's, I don't know, man. I don't worry about much, but I think one of the reasons I love you, man, and your mission is having a young girl and young boys. It scares me. I grew up in an era where the first thing I looked at was a Playboy when I was 10, because we convinced one of our friends' grandmas that Scottie Pippen had an article and we all like Scottie Pippen. She bought it, but now, I mean, kids are getting smartphones, man, at 8, 9, and 10.
Yeah.
And dude, they're going to be exposed to this stuff. And it terrifies me that boys are going to start to date my daughter someday and think for the last 6 years, that's how they view women. That's what women are for. Right. Yeah. And my sons are going to have this warped view of this is what a relationship looks like, or what women should do. And a lot of the men I coach, man, will say, well, my wife doesn't do this. And it's like, bro, your view is so skewed. She's been home with your kids all day. That porn star is high on cocaine and getting paid $2,000 and been sex trafficked. Like it's not the same thing, right? You need to reprogram your brain. So I think your mission is so important, man. And it's so vital. And it's, I get emotional about it when I think about it and when I see what you do. And, to talk to Josh, we shout out to Josh again, man. I know he'll watch this, and I'll never forget him, man, kind of giving me I'm getting chills as I talk about it, because I remember him saying my life was going this way. I was a nobody, a this, a that. I could see where my future was going. And then I met you. And a month later, I was over this craving, over this, and my whole life stopped going this way with the shame and the guilt. And I knew I could go this way.
Yeah.
And so I think anybody out there, man, if you're addicted to this stuff, I've put tweets out about it, and I've had preachers reach out to me and say, dude, I've been preaching sermons for 20 years and I feel like a fraud every time I go up there, because I know I partake in this stuff, and I talk about it. Reach out to this guy, man. I'm literally, I don't sell on a lot of stuff. I don't sell my own services very much, but this is one I think is so necessary for every guy to take a hard look and to figure out those whys, and to work with somebody who can help you overcome them. That, man, you don't know the freedom in Christ you have. You don't know the freedom in a marriage you have. I often joke that I didn't have good sex in a marriage until I quit porn, because now that I focus on my wife and everything, dude, now I have porn star sex with my wife. It's different. It's just a different thing, And for single guys, if you want that kind of relationship someday, you got to commit to it now. And so what do you tell somebody out there listening who says, man, like porn, not a big deal. I just do it every week or so. Not a big deal. I'm married, but dude, my wife doesn't get me. Not a big deal. What would you say to those guys, man?
Well, yeah. One thing that I tell them is, if you've been watching porn since you were 9 years old and you're now 20, 30, 40, you don't know a life without it. You've not lived an adult life without porn. So the fact that when you stop, your energy levels go up, your confidence goes up, your productivity goes up, your focus goes up, you break out of shame, and you're finally able to step into your calling and like fully embrace that. Your relationship with God is radicalized. Like that's foreign, because they literally can't conceive that. And like, I'm not going without it. But if they've gone even just 5-7 days without it, they've effectively experienced all those benefits of living porn free. And if you've gone that long, just compare and contrast how much better you feel, how much better your interactions are, how much better mentally you feel, emotionally you feel, physically you feel. And for those, who think it's not that big of a deal, just challenge yourself. Go 7 days without it. See what happens. See how long you can last without it. See what is different. And if any part of you, if you have to justify it, well, this isn't that bad. Are you being honest with yourself?
Yeah.
And the answer for most people is no. If you have to come up with any kind of like reason why you're doing this,
Well, and what's a positive to it? What is it? I always ask, like, what does it add to, when I finally decided to quit, I said, what does it add to my life? And that's what I asked myself with edibles too. I said, what is it adding to my life?
Right.
Okay, here's negatives. I can list 10 of them.
A lot of negatives.
I can't think of a positive, you know? And that was the big turning point for me too.
Right.
Yeah, well, I love that, man. That's huge. Well, I want to, we'll link everything you do below. Where can people find you? And then I want to know next steps too. Like, man, you've built this awesome following of 30K plus just on Twitter, 100,000 on TikTok. Show them the hair flip. I've been convincing this guy I'm like, you should start every video with just a freaking hair flip, man. Like, get that as your signature brand.
Never thought I'd be here with a mullet, but
dude,
it's here to stay, baby.
The ironic thing is you kind of look like a 90s porn star. I joke about this all the time, man.
When it's just a mustache. Yeah, I do.
But I think this is something that's not talked about enough. And I love that you're bringing eyes to it and bringing light to it and bringing conversation. I don't want to bring kids into this world and see this next generation. It's just normal. It's just normal. That's how we think of women on this different yucky level, man. That's just what they're for, right? Nah, it's not like that, you know? It doesn't need to be like that.
Right. Yeah, and there have even, in my own life, as I've fixed some health issues that have caused different hormone issues, as that's gone up, and I'm starting to realize, like, just, the God-given drive to get married and be fruitful and multiply, there are times where that does manifest as lust, and like even in my own head. And this is a tool that you guys can use. And I realized this through this thing that I did, was when I was lusting, I was thinking it was like a zoomed up image just on body parts. And that is all it was. There was no face. It wasn't even the entire body, just the body part. And I realized, I'm like, this is not a feeling that's going to get me a wife. I want to get married and have like 12 kids. I'm not getting there if I'm zoomed up mentally on a pair of ass or tits or whatever. So one thing that you can do in the heat of the moment with lust, and this will be helpful for single guys, but married dudes too, is first go from the body part and take that image and then zoom out. And now see her in her entirety. She can still be naked, but now you see the face, the hair, the body, shoulders, everything. You see all of her. And put some clothes on her. And you'll notice your feelings change and your perspective changes. Like now she's got clothes on her. Imagine what her voice might sound like. Because now all of a sudden we go from this zoomed up picture of an ass to just, naked woman. Now she's got clothes on. I hear her talking. Now you're one like, she's a human.
Man.
And then I would realize, like, that's what I'm after. A whole person. Someone that will add tremendous value to my life. It's someone that I can provide for, someone that I can protect, someone that I can lead, someone that I can create a legacy with. And it was when those feelings changed to what I'm nearly certain God has intended, for a whole person. Those are the feelings that are going to get you to find a godly woman, that are going to get you to pursue that, not lust. And when I made those changes, it just put everything in perspective. It's like, whoa. It goes from this like very much so like tunnel vision, just not good feeling, to zooming out and then like, yo, there's a lot more involved here.
Yeah. And dude, I'll say, a guy who I would put my marriage at this point up against almost any, like with my wife, how much I honor her and cherish her. And I feel like it's so mutual in both ways. And even as I go and lead a men's retreat I'm gone 3.5 days and she's got all the kids and all the responsibilities. The only messages I'm getting are like, thank you. I'm so glad, thank you for leading men. I'm glad you're filling out your God-given calling. I'm so proud of you. I mean, my wife elevates me to different levels, and it's more than just what can you do for me, which is kind of what porn teaches you, right?
Yes.
Like, what is this woman doing for me? And that goes back to that red pill kind of, I feel sorry for a lot of those guys. Because, man, when you truly kind of lead in a servant leadership way, as I think God intended marriage, oh my gosh, man. I always say women are the ultimate magnifiers and amplifiers. And I wouldn't have a social media following without my wife. I wouldn't have a business without my wife. My wife is my jet fuel every day. And I feel like if you really want that, you can't view women just in this narrow frame of what is she going to do for me in this area, you know?
Right. She's not pleasing me enough. My brother in Christ, you are eating Doritos and watching Netflix every night. You look like Jabba the Hutt, for crying out loud.
And I think that it also goes back to taking some responsibility for your life. But I love, as I talked to, we'll just go back to Josh again, how you changed his life to dude's lifting weights now.
Yeah,
Dude's like his life
he's
just
my business partner.
I mean, now he's making money online too,
Flying
right?
down to Austin soon. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I think I said I was going to write an ebook for 6 or 7 months and I never did it. And you know what? Now I've written 3 and I'm writing my 4th now, and I've grown a social media to hundreds of thousands, all these things. None of that happened until I stopped porn. None of it. And I do think porn becomes a crutch for a lot of guys too, right? Where they just, I'm anxious or I'm anxious. Well, you just go get rid of it, and it doesn't, it magnifies it. And so,
it's
again,
also the source of it too.
Is the source of the anxiety.
Yeah. So, because that's what people don't realize. So addiction is the symptom of a deeper issue, but half of the time you get anxious because you watch porn. And then when you're anxious because you watch porn to get rid of the anxiety. And then you watch it and it makes you anxious again. And then you watch it to get rid of the anxiety. So you get stuck in this symptom only cycle where you never can get into the deep stuff.
Reminds me of like you eat bad food for comfort, but you need the comfort to eat the bad. If you just get up and go to the gym, you wouldn't need all that stuff, right? It's kind of those same cycles you get put into. Well, let me ask you this, man. Why do you think more churches and more people don't talk about this? It still seems like I know a couple other guys that are kind of, I don't want to say trying, but doing what you're doing in a little form, But why aren't preachers up there on the pulpit talking about this? I mean, I read a stat where I think it was 4 billion people go on to Pornhub every year or something.
It's crazy.
It's the stupidest numbers in the world. And I've listened when I really got into this and why I wanted to quit. My why, as you talked about, I read about these horror stories of these women that are trafficked over here, many of them underage, and forced. They're from overseas. They get a green card. They take it away. They're not even allowed to leave. This is what you're doing. And it breaks my heart that that's another human being, Why aren't we doing more about this? Why are we not talking about this as a church, as a society? What do you think about that, man?
I mean, and Covenant Eyes did like a survey where they asked senior pastors and youth pastors, and I think it was 1 out of 5 senior pastors is addicted to porn. Admitted to it. Those that admitted to it. So the numbers are probably closer to like 2 out of 5, maybe even 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
And for youth pastors, which this is even more startling, if you ask me, it's like 1 out of 7, which of course those admitted it. So it's probably closer to 3 out of 7.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to talk about something that you don't fully understand. And now, if a pastor does a sermon and addresses porn and he's still struggling with it and he admits to that on stage, I think that's still a huge opportunity for the Lord to work through that and a very powerful testimony. But it's like, I'll tell people that I work with this, it's like, yeah, you can get accountability from your buddy, but if he can't stop watching porn and you can't stop watching porn, where's your advice coming from?
Yeah.
It's like you don't ask fat people for fitness advice. I mean, some people do. I don't. I hired Big Germ for that. And same thing applies to quitting porn. Same thing applies to the church talking about it. But the other thing too is I liken watching porn closer to the sin of drunkenness or gluttony, because it really is a feeling. For me, it was a feeling that I was chasing, and it just so happened that porn was the vehicle through which I felt that way. It had a lot less to do with the fact that I was watching and looking at photos and images of naked women, and more so that is what made me feel something that I wanted to feel. Which reminds me more of drunkenness and gluttony. That being said, of course, the sin of lust is still thrown in there, but it's not just this spiritual issue. I mean, at the end of the day, porn use, it's an emotional issue. Like Jesus can come in, he can heal that, he can fill the hole in your heart that everyone's trying to get, filled. But if you don't know how to work through your emotions, you don't know how to work through stress, anxiety, depression, you're still going to turn to these coping mechanisms. So I believe there's a great misunderstanding of what porn addiction is. And until things have been cleared in that domain, it's harder to address because guys are being told, they're lusting, they're terrible for it, and all these other things that just, they're not true. And it perpetuates the shame identity, because I can feel like like I said earlier, instances where I've directly lusted and I know what that feels like. And when I reflect on prior porn use, it was that feeling, it was that high that I was looking for. And I really break it down into two categories. Your two categories of really just addicts in general are high chasers and copers. I was predominantly a high chaser. I liked how porn made me feel. I liked how weed made me feel. I liked how nicotine made me feel. And I was chasing that high. It wasn't until I removed porn and I removed weed and I removed nicotine that I realized, like, I got a lot of stuff I got to sort out. You know, I used weed to cope with being canceled. And I went, you know, the winter of 2020, smoking weed, watching YouTube, building my business. And like, yeah, that played a role. I don't know that I would have been able to lay the foundation that I did had I not coped as hard as I did. But it wasn't until a year and a half after I was canceled that I really started facing things. And that slowed other areas of my life down. Like, sure, I was making, you know, winter 2021, I think I was hitting my first like 5K, 9K months, which was amazing. Winter 2021? Yeah, almost 10K months around that time. But like, dude, I was still dealing with the trauma of being canceled because I was coping with it. It wasn't until after I got rid of it, which was November 2021, that I was like, brother. Because it was so bad that like I basically had to relearn how to fall asleep because I would get so high before I go to bed that I didn't fall asleep. I just went unconscious.
Wow.
So I had to totally readjust to that. And then I got off of nicotine. I realized, like, oh, I get annoyed and irritated, and it's not a withdrawal symptom. It's a human emotion. So I had to learn how to work through that. And yeah, addiction is misunderstood. I hope to shine a light on it. I'm expanding my services to include digital dopamine addictions in general. So whether that's video games, social media, YouTube, TikTok, video game, whatever it is, porn, of course, is my specialty. It's where I guess porn's got a special place in my heart. And
somebody's gonna take just that phrase and cancel you again, man.
They can try. They can try. But yeah, I think the church is scared to talk about it.
Yeah.
But it's, in one sense, there will come a time where the church will know what to say and they'll be better equipped to handle that. And I hope and pray to play a role in that, because like I said, I don't think it's not just lust.
Yeah.
It's not just a spiritual issue. It's an emotional issue. And there are bigger problems that men are running from than, oh no, my pee-pee is broken, or I'm anxious, or whatever. It's like, no, you're coping with the fact that your dad left and you're 8 years old, or you're coping with the fact that your first girlfriend cheated on you, or whatever it is. You know, these issues that kick dudes in the nuts and keep them down for years. That's why they're going to porn.
Yeah.
It's you don't watch porn because you're horny. You watch porn because you're hurting.
Man.
It has nothing to do with being horny.
Wow. That's a powerful takeaway right there, man. I think that's for anything I've been addicted to in my life, which is almost everything, you know, partying and like booze. And it was just because I had something missing inside, you know, and I just wanted to escape those things most of the time, or like you said, chase that high, man. But yeah, I hope anybody out there listening to this, man, got a good taste of this man here today. I love this guy, John. Used to go by King David. I missed that name.
John King David.
Yeah, but you know, he's the #1 quit porn strategist on the internet. And dude, I again have met several people that this guy has helped. And you know what? Only a couple of them, people tell me that, you know, like, hey man, you don't need to come to this guy and say, well, I'm a preacher, but I'm scared that he's going to use me as an example online. It's not like that. Everything's undercover, right?
Yeah,
you're not
all client names that you see are pseudonyms,
right?
Unless they have given me explicit permission to use their name and their identity.
Yeah. And so I think if you're a guy out there who thinks, you know, I'll be honest, I didn't know porn stars' names, but I knew I had a problem. I went to this every, you know, so even when I would be fighting with my wife, and I'd think, you know, some level of like, you know, well, I know it's going to be a few days now, you know, like I'd go to that. And I think if you're a guy out there and you're in a similar spot, you are cheating yourself. You're cheating yourself out of the best version of yourself, out of the best version that you can be. And I think one phone call with this guy could change a lot of that. And I really mean that, man. You're the 80th guy I've had on my podcast. I don't plug services in the way that I'll plug this service. And I'm not an affiliate. I'm not going to make a penny. I don't want to. I just want you out there, somebody listening, one person, to say, man, that's me. I know it's me. I know my life would be better if I never did that again.
Mhm.
I know my marriage would be better. I know my spiritual health would be better. I know my life would be better. And if that's you, I'm calling you to action right now. I'm going to link everything this man does below. I'm going to link his Twitter, his DMs. What else do you want me to link, man? Tell the people what you do.
Yeah, I have my website right now. It's enroll.quitpornstrategies.com. Soon you'll be able to find more content under masteryourdopamine.com.
Mhm.
You can find me on Twitter at John David QPS, capital J on the John, capital D on the David, capital Q, capital P, capital S. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok. I'm currently rebuilding my platforms on there. They were a little skewed from the first time I did it, but you'll find me on Instagram and TikTok at Dopamine Mastery. And right now, my flagship service that I offer is my 31-day Quit Porn Mastery program, which is a 31-day intensive one-on-one coaching experience where I work with you in a very close, intimate capacity for 31 days. I message you every single day, morning, noon, night, anytime in between. It's my personal goal for you to eventually become annoyed with my messages, which has happened before.
Yeah.
We have 4 50-minute Zoom calls. We go over the nitty-gritty of what's working, what's not working. And that's where we apply strategies in real time. That's where we rewire your subconscious mind with my various hypnotic trainings, my guided meditations to change your behaviors at a fundamental level and change the outcome of those behaviors, because the urge to watch porn has been dictated by the subconscious programming. We go and we change that on those calls, so you leave those feeling more confident, more energized, and just more sure of your future being porn free. And of course, you have lifetime access to my program material and lifetime access to my group, my client-only group chat, the QPS Master Race, in which we have weekly Zoom calls on Mondays at 7 p.m. Central and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Central. And I'm in the process of expanding my offers. So if the price point on the 31-day program isn't doable, there are some payment plans available, but I'm in the process of expanding my arsenal of tools so I can help more and more people. That being said, I write great free content, and I do wish that more people would take that and read that and apply that, because I say things in those threads that people are paying to hear me tell them, and it's not, I mean, if it's free, you don't take it seriously. So please take my content seriously, because I drop gems all the time. But if you want to work with me, you can. I'm not going to stop it.
That's true, man. And I didn't even get into that, but one of the most powerful things on our retreat that we just had a week ago was, you put the whole group through a guided meditation, sort of hypnosis thing. And I went back and I shared this with you, to a memory that I had very early in my marriage that I continued to beat myself up for. And you helped me heal through that, through a little 8 to 10 minute guided meditation, where I really felt like I reframed that in my head. I forgave myself for the first time, and it was like
that's awesome,
a really powerful moment.
Yeah.
So I think, God blessed you with a lot of talents, man. And, I've told you this before, but sometimes in life I can, these kids, I'm almost 40. So I got that attitude of, these young kids, but I see men like you, man, at 23, just locked in, where you're going to go. And my last call to message to everybody out there is, get this guy now, because I really think in 4 or 5 years, it won't be the same affordable rates. I'm going to put it that way. I see really huge things for you. I see you partnering with huge churches. I see you doing a lot of these cool things, man, that is so needed in the time we're at. So I thank you for everything you do, brother.
Yeah, thank you, man.
I love you, man. Also, you've been helping me with the kids when my wife's at a Bible conference all day. So I love you for that too. And I'm gonna go do the dad thing, and I'm gonna ask you to help me again for another hour. And
let's do it.
I appreciate it, man. Give the last word to the people, man. What do you want to say?
If you feel it within you that it is time for porn to go, please bring me on. I'd love to be the one that helps you get rid of your addiction once and for all. Like I said, you can find me at enroll.quitpornstrategies.com. Soon you can also find me on masteryourdopamine.com. I have a book coming out in the next 6 months that I'm so excited for. Gonna start writing that here soon. And I'll say this, I work with a lot of Christians. My methods are not about, you're not gonna hear me quote the Bible at you if in my program. So if you are not a Christian, if you're non-religious, an atheist, whatever, my stuff still works for you. I believe that all men should rid themselves of porn, regardless of their religious background. But just reflect, take a look. What is this costing me? And like Ty said, is it adding any value to my life? Mm-hmm. And when you reach that honest answer for yourself, and it's time for you to take action, and it's time for you to unlock your full potential that deep down, I'm willing to bet porn is blocking you from, I'll help you reach it and change your life.
What do you got to lose, man? Nobody's getting to their deathbed being like, I wish I watched more porn. That's what I said about edibles. So I'm not getting to my deathbed being like, well, I wish I got high more. Like, dude, there's no chance, But anyway, guys, I could go on forever. This episode 80. This is my man here, John. I love this guy, bottom of my heart. Again, I'll link everything he does below. Please give him a follow on social, give him a follow on Twitter. This guy does put out gem threads that really talk about, unprogramming from a lot of this stuff that we've talked about today. But any other questions, shoot him a DM. His DMs are open. All you single ladies, give him the hair one more time, man. The hair flip, brother, looking good. You guys go be kind to yourself. Go be kind to others. That's how we change the world. Go have the greatest day of your life. And thanks for tuning in.